Okay, so the vast majority of Kiwis will get a tax cut at the end of the month, but I warn you not to expect too much. On 35K, it's about $2 a week. On 50K, it's $6 a week. On 100K, it's $20 a week. And much of that's already been swallowed up by hefty price rises for pretty much everything. I'm talking about utilities, power, gas, water, phone, internet, the basic things that you need to run a household. Now, Neil Mallon is the boss at Utilities Disputes, an organisation aimed at helping Kiwis who are struggling with their bills, and he says the demand for their services is skyrocketing, and he's with us now. G'day, nice to see you.
G'day, nice to meet you, Duncan.
How long have you guys been around for?
We've been around for about 21 years, so
I didn't know.
Yeah, no, most people don't know who we are. Even though we're on every electricity and gas bill, we struggle
What do you
to get to the Kiwis. Look, we are here to resolve complaints between energy companies and their customers they can't resolve. We also have some water schemes as well. We look after one telco customer, Contact Energy, but we're really here to try and sort of lift the relationship between energy customers.
Is it because it's poor?
No, I think it's a healthy sign there's complaints coming through. I think if you look at the industries that don't have complaints, sooner or later we find out there's a problem with them. So we think it's a good thing, but over the last 3 years our complaints have tripled.
And gee, that's huge, isn't it? So how many complaints do you have on the books right now?
Look, the last year we had 7,000 complaints and 8,000 inquiries, which is sort of double the complaints we had the previous year.
About what?
Mostly about billing. So the vast majority, 50% about billing, and about a third of those have affordability issues in them as well.
Right, so they say they can't afford it.
That's one of the issues, that's right. And what power companies they have to do is they have to work with the customer. If they identify they're in hardship, get them on the right plan, give them some options to pay those bills back, and then if they need to, refer them to budgeting services.
So if you get involved, what do you do?
So what we do is we can't actually look at the price of electricity, but what we can do is go through all those steps with the consumer and the energy company and make sure they've done the right thing and they've referred the consumer to all those avenues for support.
How often are they on the wrong plan?
It's not that common these days, I think. People tend to be a bit more savvy, and energy companies do tend to look at it when affordability comes in. But you do see people with a household like mine with 4 kids that might be on the wrong plan. And if you've got energy uses high, then you really need to be looking around.
See, I saw this morning in the paper there's a story about a woman, she's a grandmother with her 2 muckles, live with her. She goes straight to bed after dinner because she doesn't want to use the heat pump, and doesn't want to use the television. That's not New Zealand.
Look, I read that too, Duncan. And look, and we see those things as well. Disconnections are one of the things we really work hard on. So if they come through to us and they're facing, right at the pointy end disconnection, we can usually stop that because it's usually about getting them in touch with the power company and working through it. And if
they might be nervous about getting in touch with them because they haven't paid a bill or whatever.
Absolutely. So, and that's why we're a good service to come. They can come to us they have 20 working days to work with the power company before we get involved formally. But before that, we actually spend a lot of time giving guidance and just telling people.
Do they disconnect much?
Disconnections, they probably have gone up a little bit. They stopped over COVID, but they work, in my experience, they work quite hard to try and avoid disconnection.
Because they're expensive to get back on, aren't they?
Well, people often can go to pay-as-you-go services as well, but there is fees involved, and what we try and do is really limit all of that impact and sort of work through those issues.
So the trend that you've seen is that people are struggling with the affordability of power. Yeah,
and look, I think it's across the board. Telecommunications, power, water, those are all essential services, and people really work hard. I think that power companies, they do get a bit of sick, but I think the ones we deal with, generally they try to work hard to sort of match those affordability issues, and there are a few small social retailers popping up as well.
I see that too. There are some good deals with some of the smaller ones, so shop around. People should shop around more for power, shouldn't they?
Well, look, we don't do that. Power Switch we are on every bill, so is Power Switch, but that's one of the things you can do is just make sure you're on the right plan, look at if you can shift time of use, all those sort of things, but just get in touch with us if you've got a problem too.
I'm talking to Neil Mallon, who's the boss of Utilities Disputes, an organisation aimed at sorting all these issues out. I reckon when you look at the profits of the Big Four, you may or may not want to comment here, but $2.7 billion was their profit across the 4 big companies. Yeah, look, so at a time when New Zealanders are being screwed on everything else, they managed to put the power prices up.
Well, look, affordability is not really something we can look at. It's the Electricity Authority and regulators. But what we try and do, if we get anyone who comes through to us, is we try and make sure they get the best deal, the best rate they can, the best plan, and the best working relationship with their power company, which is really important.
But you reckon that you've seen more demand on your services because people are struggling with the affordability issue?
Yeah, and awareness has gone up a little bit as well. The Electricity Authority helped us to be a bit more prominent on bills, and
that's good. That's a good thing.
It's a great thing we do. One of the big things we do for people, Kiwis aren't great at complaining, but if they come through to us, we can sort of write your complaint in a really succinct way, ship it off to the right team at the power company. We did that 2,000 times last year, and that
I can't believe I didn't know you existed.
No, most people don't. I mean, I got to admit, I didn't really know Utilities Dispute that well before I started, but it is a great service. So the more people can call us, I mean,
you know it exists now because you're the ahead of it.
That's right. But and once you get into that space as well, you start looking more at power, and you realise how important it is to sort of just be on the right plan and really to get things sorted.
How do we sort out this woman who's, she's obviously got the 2 kids at home, 2 grandkids at home. She doesn't put on the TV or the heat pump. They go to bed, and the boy is chattering with his teeth because he's so cold.
Yeah, look, they can give us a call. Our number's 0800 22 33 40, or they can email us info@utilitiesdisputes or info@udl.co.nz. We've got people in the team that can look at how you're using energy. They can connect you to budgeting services as well. They can get the ball rolling with the energy company if there's something they can do about their affordability and how they're using energy.
You're a middleman, right? You're a middleman. That means they don't have to deal with them, and they might be worried about dealing with them.
Absolutely. We can take that worry out of it. We've got trained staff who are really empathetic. They know most people have probably already been through a complaints process before they come to us, so they're really well adept at listening.
How many staff you got?
We've got about 30, so we're a not-for-profit. We're a pretty small company, really. We sort of try to get the most out of what we've got.
So do we fund you through our bills, do we?
Yeah, it's through the energy provider, so they pay a levy, which is pretty common for the sort of organisation like us in New Zealand and Australia.
But you might get a run on your service now.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope we do.
Yeah. From where you sit, I mean, are you allowed a judgment on this? Do you look at the profits of the big power companies and think, phew, at a time when New Zealanders are struggling with income?
No. What I try to do is work really hard with the companies themselves, and I see that some of them do have hardship programs. They're trying to sort of help out those customers in those situations, and that's the kind of work we try to promote or link with them. But we have to be independent because we've got to resolve those complaints.
Yeah, but you find that if someone is struggling, are you able to manage it for them?
We put them onto a budgeting service. They're the best people, but the best thing they can do is either give us a call or give their energy company a call, and that's 0800 22 33 40.
Yeah, interesting. So you picked up threefold. You've got the increase of complaints about threefold.
We have, but we haven't really grown that much in size because we're sort of focusing more on getting them done quickly and resolving them over the phone, shuttling them and doing that service where we send the complaint summary off for them, and we're there in the background if they can't resolve it.
Okay, give us that number again, 0800?
0800 22 33 40.
Okay, good on you, mate. I appreciate it. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Yeah,
Thanks,
all
Duncan.
the best. Cheers.
Thanks.
Garner.
Okay, 0800 863 293. I didn't even know they existed, but it's good to know that they exist, and if you have any issues, then get hold of them on that number. Who knew, right? So we're spending more and getting less, and our tax cuts have been gobbled up by bill hikes right across the board. It's hard to imagine that there's any way we can cut back more from our budgets, right? But maybe there is a way, and we can trim the last of that fat. Liz Blake is a financial coach from Enable Me, and she joins me now. How we can reevaluate our spending, and is the problem us? Is the problem could just be us? G'day, nice to see you.
Thanks, Duncan.
Welcome into the studio. Because we're all different, right? We all spend differently. We all have different addictions or little things that we spend on. So what's your best advice? People that have cut back and they're still struggling.
Yes, thank you, Duncan. You're absolutely right. Everybody is different. But I think the first thing to think about is that you need to make a plan, and you need to actually know where you're at, because how can you look to improve if you're not quite sure what you're doing at the moment? So
what if you just don't have enough money?
Well, creating extra surplus, if you like, comes down to 2 things: earning more money, spending less money, or delaying things that are not essential. So that might sound really obvious.
But not always for everyone. No, I accept that, yeah. Maybe you should be talking to the councils. They put our rates up by 20%. They say they can't trim any more fat. I mean, you must look at those sorts of headlines and think, come on. There must be all sorts of things, but that's away from what we're talking about. But it just annoys me when I see councils putting up rates by 20%, which mean that punters have to pay 20% increase in their rates.
Yeah, and everything's going up, and that's exactly right. I must say, though, rates is one thing that you really do need to be across. It's similar to your mortgage.
Yeah.
It's the one thing, a rating agency can sell your house out from underneath you. So mortgages and rates are really a priority.
They're the first thing that should be paid, right?
If at all possible. But if you are feeling pressure around your mortgage, the best thing to do is go and speak to the bank as soon as possible. Don't leave it until you're about to default, because believe it or not, banks will try and help you. They have an interest over your security property, so they will try and help you.
They don't want to sell it, do they? They
Absolutely
don't want to
not.
force sale, but
No.
they do not
Very
like it when
last
you don't
resort.
communicate, right? They really hate it when you don't communicate.
Exactly. Head in the sand is not a good strategy.
Yeah. What's one of the things that you see time and time again that's a real problem for us Kiwis with our spending?
I think sometimes it's really hard to determine what is actually essential and what is non-essential. And we're always asking our clients, well, what are your non-negotiables? People laugh when you say that. Everybody's different. But I think there's really only a handful of things that are truly essential. And
let's just name them. Let's name the essentials.
Okay, well, there'll be your rates, your mortgage or your rent really is the first thing. But also talking to landlords can be helpful too. I know that a lot of our clients are landlords and they were very kind to their tenants during COVID. So
not all landlords are evil. There's this whole
not at all.
sort of approach that they're all nasty, but they're not.
Again, communication. Yeah. If you're really in strife, they will try and help you. They don't want to evict you either, as long as you're a good tenant.
Yeah. And you might have been there for some time and they might give you a couple of weeks off or something. You just
they
don't
will.
know.
Yeah, well, they might. So, mortgage, rates, insurances, really important. I know that's something that people try and get rid of.
It's a grudge buy, isn't it?
But yes, food, transportation to get to work, probably, internet. Most people can't survive without that. Childcare. You have to have your children
these are all
cared
fixed.
for.
These are arguably fixed costs. Yeah. And if you're looking at, with the way inflation's been and the way wage increases have been, they haven't met in the middle. So people have fallen behind. And there are some families that simply don't have enough money to cover all those things that you've just said. What do you do then?
Well, you have to look at ways you can earn more money. So that comes down to the obvious first place is to see if you can get a pay rise or work more hours. Can you take a second job? Get a side hustle going? Can you take in a boarder? Some secondary schools have foreign students that they're looking for.
It's a good idea, isn't it?
Homes.
If you have a spare, you might be elderly and you have a couple of spare rooms in your house, that's money, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, and reasonably easy to earn. It doesn't cost you too much more, and you get paid, quite well for that.
I just keep seeing things pop up in the news, in the last few weeks, especially now that it's winter, elderly going without putting their heater on, things like that. But that's going to kill them at some stage. If they're not warm,
Exactly. Well, there are things that they can do. There is grey power electricity that they can speak to and get help from. There are power companies that will give you, free hours during the day.
I've seen
so
that.
it's
That's
sort
good,
of
isn't it? Yeah.
Looking for those little tweaks.
So shop around more, look around more. And also people say, I've got no money left, but they go and don't shop at Pack and Save. Things like Pack and Save, it actually is cheaper.
It is.
By
definitely.
quite some margin too.
It is.
I notice, when I shop around.
And I just went out to our coaches last night and said, what's your top tip? I'm speaking to Duncan Garner in the morning.
Yes.
And
all the pressure, they all come back to you, did they?
We had tons of good ideas. But the groceries was the one thing that most of them came back with first. And they said it's, get your plan, write your list, shop online, don't buy impromptu purchases, do click and collect or get it delivered if it doesn't cost
shop
any
online's
extra.
a really good idea because then you're not tempted by the temptation, right?
Yeah, exactly. And meal planning is really good too because then you're not picking up those random things.
Yes.
Yeah. It's just being organised.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And getting into a routine. But also things that might throw you. Flat tyres, your car goes bang, all sorts of things like that can really throw families.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially things like vehicles which you need to get to work. But that is another area you could look at. Can you carpool? Is it easy to get public transport and not pay for parking and all those things?
It's also interesting, isn't it, that people, they'll still carry on some things because they think it's their right. So I'm going to go and buy that dress. I'm going to go buy those jeans, whatever. Do you really need it? Have a real think about, where you're shopping and how often you are shopping.
Exactly. You have to drill down to every line. Once you've established what you're spending money on, drill down to every line and see, one, is it essential? If it's part of your plan, then how can you save money? I mean, I've got clients that spend $50 a year on clothing. I've also got clients that spend $50,000. So
yeah, $50,000.
Yeah.
That's really right. It's really good advice. It's really good advice, but you have to be strict and you have to follow the routine always, don't you?
You have to make your plan and you have to stick to it, and it's really hard. So, working with a coach, it's like if you're going to be an athlete or a musician, you go and get help from a coach. It's the same when you're trying to train your brain to be better.
You guys do a great job. Hey, I appreciate your time on the program today. Really good advice, really good user-friendly advice. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Duncan.
Okay.